What's up everyone and welcome to another episode of Let's Max Warframe. Today's topic is going to be quite possibly the strongest melee weapon in the game right now, and that's the one I'm using as part of my Lich Hunter setup, and that is the Balla Zaw Dagger. Melee 3.0 Part 2 came out recently and has shaken things up good and proper. A lot of the builds we had used before are not really relevant in the high level meta right now, and that's led to a bit of a shift in the focus of weapons like Zaw, such as my dagger. Previously, building for slow attack speed but high base damage was the way to go. However, now it's better off to go for raw attack speed to throw as many attacks out as possible in as short a time as possible. That means that for this Zaw, the parts I'm going to be using are the Baller Strike, the Pay Grip, and the Vargi 2 Jai Link. This gives us max crit while lowering our status a bit, but also gives us as much attack speed as we can get without impacting other stats too much. 32% crit, 2-time multiplier, and a base attack speed of 1.17 before Berserker. You can imagine just how ridiculous this is going to be once Berserker procs. It's not just the weapon parts that are going to be important here, but also the stance itself. For this we're going to be using Stinging Thorn. Both the forward E combo and the stationary E combo are amazing to do. They don't throw you around like a ragdoll, and you don't do the lift mechanic. That, when you throw in the fact that you have multiple force slash procs, you have a forced impact proc, and some really great hit multipliers. So you basically have a weapon that can hit 1,000,000 times a second, force procs to get condition load overload going, as well as those hit multipliers on every single one of your hits. Once it's fully built, as you can imagine, it hits like a truck. Talking of that build, let's dive into that quickly before we show just how it does at shredding these liches. In my melee video the other day, you remember I said condition overload should be replacing prime pressure point on most builds now. Well, this is actually one of the few exceptions. Because the Lich is status immune, condition overload is going to do nothing against it. So stacking CO and prime pressure point here is covering both bases. Condition overload is amazing against normal units, and then prime pressure point on the Lich. Normally you don't want to stack these, but for this you kind of have to. Then we got Blood Rush to boost our crit chance up based on the combo counter, and to work with Orc and Shatter to boost our crit damage. Berserker for attack speed on the crits to turn this thing into an almost literal shredder. Prime Fever Strike and Shocking Touch for corrosive damage. Since we can't proc on the Lich, going 90% is the way to go. The dagger attacks so fast and has enough guaranteed procs that it keeps condition overload going with a solid multiplier all of the time. So we're going for the 90s over the dual stats just because, I mean, it actually does make sense. Final mod could be a couple of things, either a Riven or Gladiator Might. One thing to note that as of making this video, the Gladiator set bonus does not seem to be working at all. So this build can only get stronger, especially when you combine it with a Helios Prime and the Deconstructor Prime loaded with Gladiator mods. On the Riven, I'd suggest looking for attack speed and elemental damage and crit damage. Those are probably the best roles to be going for right now with the Riven for this. Arcane wise, Contagion, always a great option to go with on a Zaw. However, I tend to kill myself with it accidentally quite a bit, and I actually went on this with Exodia Force. That puts out a 6-meter pulse doing 200% of your weapon damage every time you proc a status effect. Well, as you can see, with this thing, that's pretty damn often. I'm still trying to figure out just how effective it actually is, but so far it's working very nicely, and I think it's worth checking out. Might even be worth taking a look at Exodia Triumph as well to help you build up your combo counter to max as quickly as you can. 50% chance to get an additional counter on something that attacks as quickly as this can put you at that max combo pretty quickly. It's worth a look for sure. So what do I think of the dagger? Is it worth going back and rebuilding a Balla Zaw? I mean, it's pretty clear that it's worth it. Honestly, as far as single target DPS goes, there's not much in the game that can compete with this right now. Once you get that combo counter up, get Berserker stacked, and start getting these procs from the stance going, you tear absolutely everything to shreds, no matter what it is. Check out the short footage in the simulacrum. 4 165 gunners in around 15 seconds from a standing start. That's no Blood Rush stacked or anything. This thing just tears everything to shreds, no matter what it is. The best thing about this dagger on normal enemies is you can combine it with the Arcanes, the Grineer Assault Rifle. The Arcanes Amalgam mods gives you built-in shattering impact, and bearing in mind how quickly this thing hits, yeah, combine this and corrosive and enemies have no armor in no time at all. One thing to note though is that the Arcanes mod does not work on the Lich at all. Shattering impact and those types of mods don't work on the Lich. So it's actually not necessary to use the Arcanes at all, because honestly, without it, this thing still shreds everything, whether it's a Lich or a normal guy. There's not a lot else to talk about here, to be honest. The footage says it all and shows it all. This dagger is absolutely ridiculous, and as I say, probably the highest single target DPS in the game right now. It's worth going out and building and shredding your own Liches with. I'd be interested to hear your experiences with the Liches so far. Gonna be doing a video on my thoughts on the system pretty soon. But for now, many thanks for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Hit that like button if you enjoyed, and sub and hit the bell for more Warframe content. And I shall see you in the next one.